Okay, now it's time to make the casters. To make the casters, I'm going to make a top piece here, and it's going to be a piece that has a hole going through it for 440 screw. The 440 screw will be used to be a pivot point for the bottom part here. The bottom part is going to be threaded for 440, and this will rotate. I'll put 3 ball bearings in a ball bearing groove here on the top, or on the part here where the wheel will go. That will have 3 ball bearings spots for it to sit in. But right now I want to make the top part first, and that's what's coming up. I have lots of scrap that I can make this stuff out of, and I got about 4 pieces of scrap here that I can use to make those out of. Got a whole jar full of scrap here I can use. Okay, the first thing in order is to start working these here pieces down and getting them squared up. That's the one side being faced off with the fly cutter. This is the first roughing dimension right here. I'm starting from a block this size here and coming down to this size here. I got 2 of them made so far. And once I get down to this size here, then that's just the first roughing dimension. I'm using a roughing end mill to take this down to this size here. And then I'm going to use my finishing end mill to take it down to final size. When I say that I'm using my roughing end mill, that's the end mill that I'm using right there to rough it down. And that's pretty much how much I'm taking off at a time. I'm going from 900 thousandths down to 650, so I'm taking about 240 thousandths off at a time, and then I go back and I take the last 10 thousandths off to clean it up, and I do on this side here and do the next side, and then once I get this roughed out, and then I'll use my finishing end mills to do the rest. But I'll show you what I got here on the rough. Everything roughed down to rough dimension. I'm looking at about it's roughly around 598 to 599, so I need to take it down to about 570. 20. I'm going to take it down about 20 thousandths of an inch and then recheck it. I have set up now my fine end mill, 4-flute finish end mill. And what I'll do is I will use this now to bring it down to a finished size now. Okay, these are all down to 570 now. And I have it to, and that is at 470 on the thicknesses. And I need to take now, each one of these has to be cut in half this direction, so I can get 2 per piece, and that'll give me enough for 2 models to build. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to take my slitting saw and I want to cut these into 2 separate pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the center of it. That's 470, 235 should be center. $235, and I'll just set up one, just use one for a reference to set my stops and things. You see that? There you go. And all I have to do is I have to mark it one way here, and then turn it completely over, end for end, and mark it again. And then that verifies down on center. Okay, now I'll take it over to my milling machine and slit this with a slitting saw in 2 separate pieces now. Okay, here's my setup. I have one block on both sides of this here to keep the jaws of the vise with even pressure. I have it that way there. One here and one here. The front one is the one that I'm going to do the cutting on. I have my slitting saw here. This slitting saw is nothing more than the kind of saw you get from Harbor Freight. Those little 2-inch saws that cut small pieces of, like a little miter saw that you get from Harbor Freight. And these are the extra saw blades you can buy, and I use them for slitting saws as well. Make pretty nice slitting saws for aluminum. So now that I've got my mark already established there on the side, I can go ahead and I will lower the slitting saw now. Until I can get it in line. I'll move these out here and also now too, so that I don't interfere with that. And now I'll just eyeball this up down in the middle here. Because once I get these cut, I'm going to still need to mill them to the final size. Okay, I got it where I set up where I want it there now. So now I'll go ahead and I'll tighten that. Set this for, and then I'll just set this to 0 back here just for. Okay, so now I'm ready to start doing the slitting of this now, sawing this. Okay, that's a successful cut. Okay, this is the first one I just cut. I just took it out of the vise. I don't get this lucky all the time, but just by eyeballing it up like I did, let's see what this is on the one here. That's showing about 226 thou. I'll take the other one here now. 224 thou. So that's pretty close to being almost even with each other here by a couple thou. I still need to take them down though to about 150, 160 thousandths of an inch when it's completely finished. So I have these other three to do now, and I'll get on them. Okay, that's all these blocks rough cut. The next thing to do now is to mill them down to final thickness. Right now I'm at around 225 on some of them, 222. So what I'll do is I will do a preliminary cleanup on the cut edges, bring them back over here, and then use one for reference to get it down to this final size. And I think the final size is going to be anywhere from 150 to 180. I haven't decided yet, but roughly in that area there, maybe 160 thou probably. So now I'll get this here set up my mill and get these milled to final size. Okay, there they are, milled to final size. And so now the next thing will be to do the drilling, the center holes and the 4 mounting holes. And the mounting holes will not be used for any kind of 1/64 screws to assemble to the final project, because that's going to use up a lot of screws. I'm just going to probably either double stick tape or do some sort of a super glue to the final project to put it up inside the base. But I will drill for 1/64 holes, screw holes, in order to mount this to a jig, to a fixture. And then when I use those screws to mount to a fixture, then I can put that fixture on my rotary table to do the rotary work, the circumference for the ball bearings to run around on the inside here. But that's going to come up next. Right now I need to think about how I'm going to machine these to put the holes in now, what kind of setup I'm going to need, and then also what kind of jig I'm going to need to make, or fixture I'm going to need to make to mount these to do the rotary table work. That's coming up next. Okay, now that I have the top pieces made, this is the part that will get the grooves, 1/8" grooves around. It is now time to make the bottom part also. By making the bottom part, then I can, when I put them on my rotary table, I can do all the work at one time for the tops and the bottoms, all at one time on the rotary table. Going through my scrap bin here again. I have 8 more scrap pieces here that I can use. I'm going to have to go the full height of this here. Right now this is around 570 some thou in thickness, but it's roughed. I had to go down to about 512 thousandths in height, but I'm only going to be able to get 1 per piece. So I need 8 blocks here in order to get that, because it's going to be about this wide. I can't get 2 on 1 block. So because of that, I'm going to have to use 8 separate pieces. But that's what I'm doing. I need to get these here down to rough size now and get them down to finished size after that, and then work from there. Okay, that takes care of the final height of all these here blocks here. I need to be anywhere between 510 and 515, so I'm pretty good there on the final height. But I still need to get the width of these cut. And I think the best way to do that is going to be on my bandsaw. I'm going to cut a rough width and then take it on my milling machine and get to final width on the milling machine. But right now I'm going to go ahead and do this on the bandsaw. Okay, the first thing I'll do is I'll take one of these small blocks here and just get the height of that and set that. And then that way there I'll be able to scratch in my heights and dimensions this way. As you can see, I can only get one block out of each one of these, as shown here. That gives a better look at it right there. And the block I'll be getting is this one here, but I'll rough cut this on this here lines here so that I can mill all the way around there to the final dimensions. Okay, here are the tops of the casters, right here, 2 sets, and here are the bottoms. I have 3 of these done. I have one more to do here yet, and I'm just doing the final trimming down. Take a couple thousandths off here at a time. Get it down to its last final cutting on this. I'll drop it down another 2 thousandths yet, and then I should take care of it. Last 2 thousandths. Nice and slow. Make sure I get a nice even cut across here. I'm using a 4-flute end mill. I think it's like 5/8. So I'm using my end mill holder now to have to hold bigger end mills in with. That'll go right across in one sweep like that. And I should take care of it now. Okay, the first thing I need to do is get the tops of these here drilled first for the center holes, for the through holes for the 440 screws. And all I need to do is just get the first one lined up here on my drill press, and I'm using some blocks here and some parallels to get everything lined up. Now that I have this all completely nice and tight, I have a mark on one corner here indicating that it's going to be against the back side here and against the parallel here that I had here as a stop. And that will be my reference mark for these pieces. And what I'll do is I'll mark all the pieces with an X like that there, and I'll put that X against the register against here and here for all of them, and then they'll all line up properly that way on the drill press. Okay, it looks nice. That works nice for a 440 screw through hole. Okay, I'll do the rest of them like this now. Okay, I'll mark references on all these. Put X on each corner here. And I'll have the reference marks on all these now. Alrighty, here's how I do this here. I have a 1, 2, 3 block back here to act as a stop. I'll put my pieces in there, take my X. The X goes against, registers against the back side here. And then I have another parallel here that I can put tight against this block here. And then I'll tighten everything together as one unit, and then this will be registering off the back of here and off of here. I'll pull these out and then I'll do all the drilling. Okay, that takes care of the top plates, the through holes for 440 screws. And now I need to do the tapped holes for 40 for the bottom parts that are going to actually be the casters themselves that hold the wheels. So what I need to do now is get this set up and get a center mark on here to line up on my drill press, and then they'll all get drilled the same way too, mass producing them. And then once I get those drilled and tapped, then I'll be ready to go to the rotary table and start doing the actual radius turns for the ball bearings. Okay, now I can mark these here with X's in the corners for reference. Okay, just like I did with the top ones, same thing. Okay, now these ones get drilled and tapped. That should be deep enough. Okay, as a preliminary check, I'll put one of the top pieces, one of the bottom pieces together. I'll put the X's together, X against X, because that's how when I go to machine them, I'm going to have the X's together. And it'll go down like this, and then it'll rotate on the screw. The screw itself will be the rotation of the caster. Alrighty.